I believe we are currently living in the greatest time in history. Now, I planned that opening before I listened to Jeremiah's session. And for me, a lot of what Jeremiah talked about, a lot of what he discussed, is this idea of where we're moving and how we're taking it there. And so as this session, and what I really want to set this up for, is that we are living in a new era, not only with digital and social media, but we are living in an era where we need to open up our perspective. I firmly believe it is the greatest time in history. I'm raising my daughters in a world that it does not matter your race, it does not matter your sexual orientation, it does not matter where you live in the world, hence here. It does not matter what your job is. We have the ability to connect with people around the world. We have the ability to not feel alone. I like to say, if you like to do underwater basket weaving and you like to do it in your socks, there's probably a Reddit community somewhere for you to find your people. But along with this new world, along with this new changing consumer, comes a very smart consumer that no longer falls for the things that kind of live in the world that we're used to. And then on top of this new consumer and this new data, we are living in a time of change that we've never seen before. For me, growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of the things that my dad always made us do on Christmas morning was we had to wait at the top of the stairs. And when we had to wait at the top of the stairs, he would always say, wait up there, and he had to go get that big video camera, right? The big VHS video camera, everybody knows what I'm talking about. And he'd put it over his shoulder. He'd, of course, try to program the date on that, which is one of the hardest things to do, if anyone can remember. Other than programming a VCR, programming one of those giant VHS camcorders. And the reason I share that is because the VHS camcorder was the #1 way for us to capture video content for 21 years. For 21 years, the VHS camcorder was the #1 way to capture content. In perspective, the Blu-ray DVD did not last 4 years. The rate of change that we are living in today is unlike anything we've ever seen before. So we have to approach change differently. We have to look at what we're doing differently, because today's generation, especially those under the age of 40, do not care that times change. They do not care that change is hard. They expect us to change, not only change with them, but to know where we're going. Now, we've heard the concept of FOMO. If you're familiar with FOMO, the fear of missing out. And we had some great presentations yesterday, not only on the importance of understanding who we are, but understanding how to tell our story, understanding where things are going. And FOMO is that fear of missing out. And I host a podcast called FOMO Fans, which my last name's Fanzo. And I kind of leverage that idea of, I thought we needed to embrace our FOMO. And rather, I think what we need to look at now is we have to figure out how to cure our FOMO, which means prioritizing the change, understanding what's going on. And so what I ask you to do, and what I ask for throughout this presentation, is I want us to not only open our perspective, but I want us to think about it and say, how can I focus on connecting with my consumers where they are today while listening for where they're going tomorrow? The idea is not chasing shiny objects. It is not changing for the sake of change. Rather, it's understanding who our customers are, what they want, where they are, where they want it, and delivering that today, but also preparing ourselves for the future that Jeremiah talked about, for the future that was spelled out for us yesterday. And so we cannot force change. We cannot drive change by forcing it down people's throats. These are my 3 daughters. I learned that if I tell them what to do, although they are daddy's girls at the moment still, they're 9, 8, and 4 years old, or 5 years old. If I tell them what to do, they say no. But if I, bribe them, which I'm not afraid to admit I do, or if I inspire them, or if I teach them, they're open to change. Change is only scary if we are afraid to fail. Change is only scary if we believe failure is a state that we will not recover from. And as I said, we are living in the greatest time in history. Therefore, we should not be afraid of failure or being alone. I permanently believe that as we move forward in change, we're going to start to understand that with these digital technology, and even to complement the question that was asked earlier, I do not believe technology makes us less aware or less connected. I believe it just requires us to be more prioritizing with what we're doing, where we're doing it, and how we're doing it. Now, you might be saying, okay, Brian, that's fine. And here's the thing. If you don't change, you will, This is the example of don't change. And for those under the age of 40 or maybe aren't familiar with Blockbuster or the fact that they didn't change and believe that Netflix would never surpass them, because why would people get their DVDs sent to them in the mail? We have a new example of not changing in the United States. And unfortunately for me, this is tough because growing up, I was the kid that loved Toys R Us, and I was taking my daughters to Toys R Us, even though I was buying my products from Amazon, hence the problem and hence the fact that they're out of business. So our options today are to change and embrace change, or become the next Blockbuster and Toys R Us. So as we look at this change, and as we look at this, for me, the reason the hot pink is there, the reason, and it wasn't because I was inspired by being a pirate yesterday, and I do kind of look like his book. See, now you're thinking of it? Yeah, I'm a walking example of the pirate that he was driving forth. My focus, the book that I'm writing, is digital empathy. And what I mean by that is I believe the world we live in today, everyone can agree we need more empathy. And our ability to be empathetic requires two things. The first thing being that we need to be able to put ourselves out there. We cannot be empathetic for others until we are first opening ourselves up for people to be empathetic for us. And the second one is we must put ourselves in the shoes of others to truly understand the world they live in. Put ourselves in the shoes. And so I call that think like a fan. And what I'm here to tell you is I don't like marketing, I don't like sales. Does anyone here love being marketed to or sold to? I ask this at marketing conferences and no one raises their hand, which is really just the epidemic of marketers, right? So when we look at this, we are no longer, our job, especially if we are running a business or we're an entrepreneur, our job is not to market, our job is not to sell. Every person in this room is in the business of trust. How do I build trust? How do I maintain trust? And then ultimately, how do I scale trust? As not only the world becomes smaller based on our connections, but how do we connect this new world of trust? Because today's generation, and I was introduced, I did like this is a pager, if those are your wearing. I call myself a pager-wearing millennial, mainly because I'm on the cusp of the millennial generation. I was born in 1981. I know what a pager is, which is why I have that. When I graduated college or university, I didn't have an iPhone, and I gave up my EDU address, and when Facebook came out, I was one of the people that wasn't able to use it. And so there's an entire generation, an older generation of millennials, but there's an entire generation, younger generation, that looks at this change as exciting, that looks at innovation and technology as the future. And interestingly enough for them, they don't trust a brand based on how long they've been in business. Ultimately, if a brand tells you, I've been in business for 60 years, first thought through my head, oh crap. They're gonna be slow, they're gonna be stuck in their ways, they're gonna blame social media and technology for making the world a worse place, which, breaking news, the world was a bad place. Social media and technology is amplifying it. Therefore, we have two choices. We either fix the world or we blame social media and technology and keep our head in the sand. And so we must look at this and say, how do we push trust? How do we establish who we are? And I truly believe that every person, every brand, every business has a story to tell. And it's our job to put the story out there. Because if I look at the future of marketing, it's not about technology, it's not about the data, it's not about AI. It's about how do we use all of these pieces to be more relatable. And I use this as a perfect example. I get to travel. This is actually my 76th country that I've been to. So I was excited to come to Montenegro because I'm trying to get to 100 countries before I turn 40. And for many of you, like, he counts the countries he goes to? I worked for the Department of Defense, and they actually, when I got debriefed when I left my clearance, they actually told me in 2016, you've been to 68 countries. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like a challenge to get to 100. And so for me, when I travel, do I wait for a billboard? Do I go into my hotel to figure out where to eat? Or do I post on Facebook and ask my community, who here has been to Montenegro? Where is somewhere good to eat? Because as marketers, there's one thing that I've found in every country I've visited. Every single country has the world's most famous pizza. Every country. I gave this presentation in Scotland last year, and I walked out of the venue, and it was amazing. I was there with Ann Handley, shout out to Ann, and we turned the corner, and there was literally a sign in Scotland that they had the world's famous pizza. And what had happened is marketers figured out that if you put world's famous in front of it, more people buy it. Are we surprised that consumers don't trust marketers? We're living in a world that retargets everything that we do. And when we look at this data, when you look at a lot of things that Jeremiah was talking about, and we look at this, the thing that I talk about a lot, and I worked in cybersecurity for 9 years, I'm a tech guy to begin with. When there's a blurred line with using data, the blurred line only exists if you are trying to manipulate, market, or sell someone. If you are using the data to help someone provide value or ultimately show that you care, nobody will ever complain that you're using the data. And so as we look at relatability, we have to start asking ourselves, if artificial intelligence gives us data on our consumers, are we prepared to use it? We need to trust our employees to act in real time. We need to understand where this data falls. And our ultimate goal with social media marketing, digital media, is to shrink the gap between online and offline. We don't trust a brand or a logo, we trust humans. So as we think about this, how are you shrinking the gap? Are you sending people your website? Because if we look at this as perspective, it used to be you called someone on a phone or you walked into their business. And then we said, well, that seems too personal. How am I going to scale? So then we built a website. And then a website had a contact form, and then too many people were contacting us. And then we said, you know what we should do? We should ask everybody to give us their email address because everybody wants more email. Said nobody ever. And then once the email was getting over, and we're like, chatbots are the answer. We're going to go chatbots because now we don't like automated email. We want to talk to an automated person that doesn't understand us. Today, right now, as technology-driven as we are, we desire more personalization, more human connection, more attachment to those brands, and every business in here has the answer. And it's your employees, it's the people that make up the brand, and we have to focus on shrinking that gap. And what it requires for us to do that is we have to realize that today's consumers are no longer dumb. Today's consumers have more data and information at their disposal than some of us do that are running the business. For me, every time that I go into Best Buy, the electronics store in the United States, I feel bad for the employee because I've done 2 days of research on Amazon and all of the products, and there's not a chance in hell they're gonna be able to answer a question that I don't already know the answer to. As consumers, we have the power. We have the power of choice. It doesn't matter where you live, we can choose where we buy something from. It does not matter if you live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you want to buy something from around the world, we have that opportunity. And so consumers are no longer dumb. The other piece of this is that we've heard for a long time in the marketing space that content is king. And whoever said that should be strung up. Because the internet is full of noise, nonsense, content for content's sake, and then we have to cut through that noise and deal with bad news and fake news. So as a marketer, you're saying, well, how do I get the attention of our consumer? And you're like, well, as much as you think your white paper is exciting, it is not. Breaking news, no white paper is exciting. I don't care what you spin it. We have to figure out how to deal with that and how do we move that. And so what I believe is great content is king. We need to create less content, create content that is more hyper-focused to our fans' perspective, and then focus more time on getting the content to where our audience is. Now, we might have heard a little bit about this, or we might know this idea. We've all heard the analogy, and I think even Julius said it on stage yesterday, that the average consumer has the attention span of a goldfish. Have we heard that here? Yes? Okay, I get some nods. That's the 8 seconds. That's why Snapchat did a 10-second stories. And I'm here to tell you that's complete bullshit. And many of you might be like, wait a second, everyone's telling me that today's consumers are short attention span. How many people watched an hour and 20 minutes of Game of Thrones without blinking? How many people binge watch Netflix any minute a new show comes out? Wait, today's consumers have an 8-second attention span, yet I will watch the entire season of a show. Like Game of Thrones frustrates the hell out of me because I have to wait a week. Like hashtag real world problems, right? So today's consumer, here's the thing. Today's consumer isn't have a short attention span. They just have no time for your crappy content. Yeah, see, there we go. And so what our job is to figure out how to stop creating crappy content, how to create content that our fans actually want to consume, and then get it in front of our audience. I thought Julius did a great job yesterday talking about how he grew his brand. And one of the key things that he said, and I was able to talk with him for a while last night, one of the things that he talked about, and one of the things that we remember is that he is a magician that is talented. He is not someone, he was faking it to his making. It wasn't selling unicorns and rainbows. He had talent, and what his job was, what he's found that his secret was collaborating and outworking other people. His idea was, I'm gonna take my great content and I'm gonna reach out to people to get it in front of people. Remember that if his magic sucked, it would not have mattered how many people he reached out to, because this is something that I want us to remember, is that if you suck offline, you will suck online at even bigger scale. And then on top of that, as I talked about it, I think it's even harder for us to get our content in front of the target audience, because fake news and bad news. And I don't know about you, I don't know if this is a movie that, and I'm a millennial, so I'm gonna quote it. We've heard of the movie Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. And the tagline's pretty simple, right? If you build it, they will come. In 2019, if you build it, nobody is coming. You launch a new website, who cares? New Instagram account, about damn time. You figured out Twitter is still valuable, congrats. Last night at dinner, I talked to a couple of people explaining to them that 60% of my revenue in 2018 was generated by LinkedIn, and they said, LinkedIn has content? Yes, for those that are shaking their head right now, I know you probably don't know your password for LinkedIn, because last time you checked LinkedIn was when you were looking for a job or hiring someone. LinkedIn is a gold mine at the moment. It is an absolute gold mine, because do we do business with the business side of people, or do we do business with people? And what LinkedIn is moving to is we're understanding that it's not a business social network, it's a network that allows us to connect with our business people. And as we look at that, as we move forward, we have to stop thinking about this field of dreams, because it's the lazy marketers out. On top of that, we have this mobile device, and thank God we moved from the pager, because for those that don't understand what the pager is, like under the age of 30, we used to have to find a payphone. Oh crap. Google payphone afterwards so you guys can figure out what a payphone is. But the mobile device today connects us with more than we've ever imagined before. I joke that I get to travel every single week. I get to connect, fly around the world. But for me, the nicest part about it is I get to send a video to my daughter that arrives on her iPod Touch. So when she arrives, she wakes up this morning on a Sunday morning at my house in Virginia, she gets to see the stage that Daddy was going on. I was able to create that from a mobile device, send it from Montenegro to my house in Virginia, and my daughter is able to consume it on a mobile device. We are not living in a mobile first world, we are living in a mobile now world. And so our question is, how do we move forward? How do we keep this train moving in the direction that we want to move? And so I'm gonna give you guys a couple tips right now on how you can think like a fan, how you can connect and build this trust. And the first one, we must talk with our audience, not at them. I already asked you guys, do you like being sold to or marketed to? And not one person raised their hand. Not even that person's like, damn, if no one raises their hand, how am I gonna do my advertising job? Great advertising doesn't look like advertising. I think we're gonna hear a little bit about that later today. So one of the things we need to do is we need to talk with our audience, not at them. The greatest example I can give to you guys on this is that I believe we, right now, have a problem. We, together, need to move the needle forward. We need to start marketing to people. Now, let me do that same thing. I believe you have a problem. You guys need me to fix your problem. Which one did you like better, right? We have a problem. Together, we are gonna fix this, or what you're doing. No one likes being told what to do. No one likes being told to change, and sure as hell no one likes being told to buy your product. So now our job is to talk with our audience. The other piece of this, and maybe the most important word of this presentation, is the word access. I believe today our consumers are craving access. If you're asking yourself, well, what kind of content do I create? I own a plumbing business, or maybe I own a service that doesn't really look well on content. Here's the answer. We are craving access. We want access to your products. We want access to your people. We want access to your experiences. If you're launching a new product, you're opening a new business, why not create content behind the scenes? Now, that's a little scary, and for many people, we're like, wait, hold on a second. How am I gonna give access to them? Like, it might be messy. I might show things that are bad. And I travel around the world, and I ask this question on every stage, and I'm curious if it's any different here in Montenegro. Does anyone in the audience know of a brand that is perfect? Okay, brand's a hard one. Let's throw that one out. Does anyone know a person or a leader that they believe is perfect. Do not say your boss if they're in the room. Sometimes I hear Mother Teresa. I would argue Mother Teresa would never have said she's perfect. A couple weeks ago, I heard Ryan Reynolds as an answer. I'm a Deadpool fan, but so if we believe that no brand is perfect, no person is perfect, I ask you this: why are we spending all of our time trying to create perfect content? The perfect picture, the perfect Facebook status. Why are you not using live video like Facebook Live to shrink the distance? Well, Brian, what if the audio doesn't work? What if something goes wrong? It's called being human. And so I have two rules for this think like a fan concept. It's simply, perfection is a fairy tale. If you are trying to be perfect, you will never execute. Never executing, you become Blockbuster and Toys R Us. The second piece of this is control is an illusion. You cannot control what people are talking about your brand. You cannot control where your message goes. The only thing you can control is yourself. Therefore, for us telling our story, if we're not telling our story, someone else is. And I ask you, do you want someone else telling your story, or do you want to be telling your story? And for those that you're not sure that answer, Google your company's name or Bing it. There you go, Jason Miller. Bing your company's name and look at the results. More than likely, the first couple of results, you're gonna be like, uh-oh, that's not true. For me, my aha moment was in 2013. If you binged my name in 2013, the first results was World Series of Poker, 3rd place. I was like, oh, crap. It's not a marketing one. The second one was senior in high school wins bowling trophy. I was like, man, this is not going good. I mean, I worked in cybersecurity at the Department of Defense. The only thing we were told to do is tell you guys that you couldn't know what we were doing because our job's classified. But think about that as you move forward. The key to this is being yourself. And I thought the presentation that we saw yesterday is one of the best presentations I've seen on change and putting ourselves out there that I've ever seen. And I think, Sam, great job. That was world class. You deserved every second of that. And the key to that, and what this element here, is if you want to make a difference and stand out in the world, it's not copying other people. It's not consuming other people's content. The amount of people that tell me, Brian, I followed everything Gary Vaynerchuk does. I did everything he does, and I can't stand out. You're like, no kidding, the guy creates like 1 million pieces of content a month, and you become the exhaust of someone else. My life, my business changed 2013, November 2nd, when my mom said, Brian, are you living the same life that you do offline, online? You are someone that loves life. You're someone that walks to your own beat. You wear a backwards hat, crazy shoes, talk really fast, and don't give a crap. Are you living that online? And my answer was no. Online was hard. It was disconnected. I had 2,000 followers on social. It was something, every time I had to type up a tweet, it was frustrating because I couldn't figure out how to make it perfect or what people wanted. November 2nd, 2013, I went into my mirror and I wrote, be yourself. Everything changed. And I believe every single person right now, if you want to stand out from the noise, this is the answer you take. And transparency is being demanded. The days of selling unicorns and rainbows and bullshit are over. Jeremiah said that in his presentation. The days of us faking it till we make it. And here's something for you guys to know. I am from the US. The US is not ahead of other countries. I hear this all the time. The US is really good at talking about ourselves. We're really good at bragging about things, and we're really good at claiming that we're doing things that we're not even done yet. We just want to curious how you guys feel. So to stand out, it's not to be more like the United States. To stand out, it's not to all of a sudden trying to take their lead. It's to be transparent and let people in to who you are. I firmly believe if you think like a fan, if you put yourself in your fans' shoes and create content from your fans' perspective, giving them access and giving through transparency, you're going to start to move the needle forward. As I kind of wrap this piece together, I want you to kind of take a moment to think about this in your business and everything that you're doing. Because social media is not the problem. Digital is not the problem. The problem is we've been using social media and technology to try to replace or to solve people problems. No technology, no social media will fix stupid or fix bad people from doing bad shit. But if together, we as a community in the world, and you have a great community here with Spark Me, we together start sharing and caring about others. I firmly believe together we can change the world, but it first requires us to do it ourselves. So my challenge to everyone here in Montenegro is to be more empathetic, to have an open mind, to understand what others want. Not only others that are our customers, but that others that are in our business line. And our job is to listen and to learn. Our job is to consume and understand the movement. Now, this is day 2 of an event. And this event, I can tell you, 2 years ago, I remember following the hashtag as it came up on Twitter, which is the power of social media. And I remember thinking, damn, I want to speak at that event. I mean, look at the stage, look at the speakers that they have. And this is a testament to this event. And what had happened was I reached out, or Vlad reached out, and he asked me to be the event. And immediately I was like, sweet, 76 country. That was my first thought. My second thought was, where the hell is Montenegro? My third thought was, well, if my girlfriend can come with me, I can't say no. But the other piece of this that is really important for us to understand is you're living in a great time, it's a great community, you're gonna learn lots of things, but here's the problem. Anyone can learn, anyone can consume, anyone can be excited. You're gonna leave here excited, but I have a challenge for you. Take one piece of what you're doing, one lesson, one idea that you've learned over these 2 days, and I challenge you to do one thing. Write it down, think about it, but more importantly, press the damn button. I want you to execute. Anyone can learn, anyone can consume. Very few of us take actions. All of this learning, all of this community, all of this great event that you're a part of means nothing without action. Are you guys gonna press the button? Yeah? I challenge you, press the damn button. Press the damn button today and make sure you start executing, because when you come to this event next year and you tell, and maybe I'll be back, and you tell me or you tell someone that says, I was inspired last year, I was motivated, and I'm really thinking about executing it, we're gonna simply say, why didn't you press the damn button? My name is Brian Fanzo, thank you guys very much.